I bet my life I'm a dice shaker. Electric lights on a skyscraper.
Welcome to Diceshaker Podcast. My name is Jordan Brown. I'm the host of the Diceshaker Podcast. With me, as always, the man behind the scenes, Tyler Hartley. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. No longer behind the scenes.
No longer behind the scenes.
On
on camera. We thought it would be good for ratings if I wasn't the fucking face of this thing.
They said we couldn't do it, and we did it.
Now, listen, we took a week off there, bye week, all right? It's a long season. Had to get healthy. Had to get the boys right. We're back. Lots to talk about. Today is October 9th. We are about a quarter of the way or so through the season and really into the meat of football season. So we were going to talk about it last week, but starting Thursday of last week started the streak that we have every year of this year. It is 55 consecutive days of football. We are now in it. We are now every single day there is football. Who's playing? Jacksonville State and New Mexico State, I believe, plays tonight. So there's just games every single night. We're going to get Maction soon. Mr. Tuesday Night's coming back. That's all happening. This is
the one you were talking about, right? The
yeah.
5 days straight coming
This
up.
Is 55 straight days. This is men from boys situations. This is everybody can bet early in the season. Everybody, it's only 2 days. Everybody pay attention. Do you have it every single day? Can you wake up every single day, regardless of how yesterday went? We'll get into the records. Look at the board and pick winners. Can you do it? Again, this is where the real dice shakers come out. This is where the inspiration for the podcast is from this stretch right here, the real dog days of the season. So we're in it now. I couldn't be more excited about it. We're gonna do a little check-in here of kind of where we're at. Again, about 25% of the way through the season. Now, we're a podcast of integrity. We're a podcast of standards. So we're going to talk about the bad first. The Saturdays have been bad. No two ways around it. 40% on the year. It's not good enough. I understand it's not good enough.
It is. It really is. It's bad enough.
It's bad. It's tough out there.
Yeah.
It's tough out there, all right? There's been a lot of casualties. A lot of people asking me what's going on. Here's what's going on. College football right now is more unpredictable than it's ever been before. I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to what's been happening, but we are on not quite unprecedented because 2007 had probably the most upsets, but this is the most chaotic year in college football since 2007. I don't know if you're paying attention to last week. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. 23.5-point dogs won outright. First time that Vanderbilt's ever beaten a number one ranked team. This is coming off Alabama beating Georgia at home the week before. It was, again, the number one ranked team in the country. Vanderbilt beats them for the first time ever. Vanderbilt was 0-60 in their last 60 games against top 5 teams. They pull it off. My guy, Diego Pavia. People know about Diego Pavia because they weren't up watching New Mexico State last year. I was watching New Mexico State last year. I knew all about Diego Pavia. First of all, his name is Diego. Love that. Second of all, little 5'9" guy. Short as hell. Balls the size of boulders on this kid. Runs around, not scared. Beats Bama in their face. Love it. You should have seen it too. You can pull up the clip if you want. You don't have, but it's after the game, the Vanderbilt fans stormed the field and they ripped the goalposts out of the ground.
That was
they
what
ripped
that was
the
from.
goalposts
Yeah, no,
out
I
of the
did see
ground
that, yeah.
and then threw them in the river. Which is, I love that we've now sort of started this.
Dog, I didn't know it went to the river after.
We started this tradition in college football now, which I love. Tennessee sat it last year when they beat Alabama. They took the goalposts out of the ground, passed it up the stadium, like all the way up to the top of the stadium, dumped it over the side. They have a river behind their stadium. So they dumped it over the stadium into the river. And that's now set the precedent that we win football game, goalposts go in river. Like, I really do.
Dude, is there, like, repercussions to this?
Nope.
Like, is there legal?
Cops escorted them. Because it was just, listen, it's too many people.
It's just too much.
It's so out of control. It's so many people.
Yeah, understood. Okay.
Also, a lot of white people doing this. That probably helped a lot. like if South Carolina wants to start ripping goalposts down, I don't know if the cops are going to be okay with their fan base necessarily doing it. But white ass Vanderbilt private school, they call themselves like the Harvard of the South. Like they're a nerd school, right? That's why they're not supposed to beat Bama. And so they were tripping out their part. So anyway, goes to say that college football has been very unpredictable. We will not stop. We will not stop. We considered Nerf bullets for a moment there on Saturday when things were getting dark. We're not going to go Nerf bullets. We're still firing. We're going to talk about it. One of the best college football Saturdays coming up this year. I couldn't be more excited about it. I feel good. That's the thing. I feel good when I place these bets. Like, I've never looked at the card yet and been like, oh, this is going to hurt. I feel good every Saturday. And it just hasn't gone my way in the moments. I need some terrible beats. Doesn't matter. College has been bad. We got to get it fixed. We're going to get it fixed. Now, that being said, it is not an exaggeration. It is not hyperbole. It is not. This is not a brag. It is just a fact. I'm one of the best NFL bettors in the world right now.
It's absolutely.
I'm 64% through 5 weeks. Now, for some context for people who out there who don't know how this shit works, 52.5% is breaking even. 60% is what professional gambling conglomerates do. So we're talking about people who have teams of 40, 50 guys, computer algorithms, years and years of experience, inside knowledge to teams and to sports books and all sorts of edges. They go at about 60% on the year, and it costs tens of thousands of dollars to get their picks. I give this shit to you people for free.
For free. This isn't
Never
a
charged
Patreon.
once.
This isn't going to be behind a paywall.
Never charged once. Diceshaker is for the people. It's always been for the people. Will continue to be for the people. Now, you would say those conglomerates, they go 60% year over year over year over year. That's true. 64% over, but 64% over 5 weeks, you can no longer make the small sample size argument to me. We are more than a month through the season, and I am dominating the NFL. Everything I look at, Cash, I had the over. Everybody was on that under for Ravens Bengals. That shit went over in the third quarter.
It was a nice pick too, because like I had -2.5 on the Ravens too, which was sick. Yeah. But like what I'm saying is like it's a good call because the Bengals are they do this kind of year after year now, where it's like week 4, week 5. That's when they start to ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah, and that offense is, listen, if it weren't for the malcontents at receiver with Higgins and Chase, there'd be no reason to even doubt that offense. And we showed it. Joe Burrow had 5 touchdowns. The defense is an abomination.
Yeah,
it's truly awful.
Awful.
And they lost the game because, again, as we talked about on the Diceshaker a couple of weeks ago, the Bengals was who they was before they got here, right? And we're going to talk about that with another organization that's in the news right now. But that's just sort of where the Bengals are at right now. And again, I just feel like I've got a really, really good pulse on the NFL right now. I feel like things are pretty clear. The team, like, again, the Chiefs are 5-0. They haven't played well yet. I called that from the beginning of the year that they were very clearly head and shoulders above everybody else. It's been clear from the jump that that's correct. Again, we can cancel Christmas right now if you want. The Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. Barring a devastating injury to the offensive line or to Mahomes, they are going to win the Super Bowl. There's just no two ways about it. I don't see the Bills, their offense has fallen off a cliff in the last couple of weeks. The Ravens have found an identity on offense through the run game. I mean, until I see it, I'm not going to take Lamar Jackson in a big playoff game against Patrick Mahomes, so I would still give the Chiefs the edge there. And the NFC is an absolute dumpster fire. Like, I don't believe in this Vikings thing. We're going to find the right spot to fade them. The Niners are banged up. I think it might be over for the Niners. I think
it's Niners not spot. Yeah.
You know what the Niners are like. It's like one of those those like heist movies, like an Ocean's 11 or something like that, where it's like all this like cast of characters that are all like really, really like big, like, it's Pitt and Clooney and all those guys, right? That was the Niners when they had like, oh my God, look at all the talent this roster has.
Yep.
And then inevitably in those movies, there's always comes a time, or maybe it's in a whole movie where they go, hey, we got to get the team back together for one last job. Last year was one last job.
You think that was the last job?
That was one last job.
That was Ocean's 13.
That was one last job for the Niners. They didn't get it done. I tried to tell you people last year was the year to get the Chiefs, and you didn't do it. Now you don't have a prayer doing it. I think the clock is ticking. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's got the Achilles thing going on. Do you know what's going on with this? Have you been keeping up on this?
Yeah, I mean, enough.
He's flying to Germany every other week to get second opinions. They go. He's got double Achilles tendonitis, and he's not 30 yet. That doesn't seem good. No. Seems bad. As a guy who's been around a little while, seems bad. They've got problems there. Trent Williams isn't getting any younger. Debo's always had injury concerns. The Brock Purdy thing is like he's getting exposed a little bit because before it was, hey, Brock, just come in and don't cry, right? Here's the keys to the Ferrari. Keep it in first. Don't crash it. And then all of a sudden it goes, hey, by the way, Ferrari's in the shop. Here's the Honda Civic. It breaks down a lot, and I'm going to need you to get home in about 40
Yeah, need you to redline.
You're going to have to go. So, and listen, he's done better probably than I would have expected for him in that situation. But I'm not considering them to be a great contender out of the NFC. The NFC North is interesting between the Lions. I think the Packers are going to come on strong as the season goes. I don't like anybody in the NFC East. The NFC South, obviously, my guy Baker. Like, it is not crazy to say that the Bucs and Baker Mayfield may win the NFC. I could for sure see it. I just don't really think there's a contender. All that to say, we're still canceling Christmas. The Chiefs are still winning the Super Bowl. That's where the NFL is at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So 64% through week. We're going to keep it rolling. If you want the picks, if you want to make money, you're literally costing yourself money by not following the Diceshaker on Instagram, not following the Diceshaker podcast on
That's
Twitter.
really what it is. So you don't have to watch an hour podcast. You just have to
just have to go to the social media. This is just, if you just want to hear somebody be right about a bunch of stuff, that's what this is for. If you want to make money, that's where the social media is for. Just literally follow the picks. Now, then I will talk about the needle thread is killing me this year. I'm 1-4 needle threads. I should be 3-2.
Oh my
The
God.
Cowboys won 2 weeks ago. I think that's the only kick that the Aubrey kick at the end of the game. I think it's the only kick that's been missed in the NFL this year.
Yeah, no.
Guys are nailing 60-yarders like it's nobody's business this year. And then the one I need to hit the over, we can't get it. So the needle thread's been frustrating, but the locks are still 0-5, which is at this point hilarious.
It's so funny.
At this point, we took a week off the locks last week because I gave you an early one before the season started. So we still have 5 locks for 5 weeks. I got to get a lock over the line, but it's really hard to be upset when you're winning this much.
Well, I think it's hilarious because it's record-breaking numbers on the season.
Yeah,
and then also the locks are on 5. But just follow Jordan and then fade his lock.
Fade the lock,
and you have such a good year going on.
You won't lose.
It's such an
you
easy
won't
formula.
lose. It's a really really good formula. So anyway, so the NFL is gonna continue on. It just kind of again, this is what the dog is where the NFL really becomes a slog of just game after game after game after game. And this is where you can really start to lose the board a little bit because it all starts too many data points now. Things start to get muddied. Who's hurt? Who's not hurt? So you really got to put your trust in me for the NFL because I got my thumb on the pulse here. College. This is one of the all time. So it's October 9th right now. So Saturday, October 12th is for my money the best slate of regular season college football ever. Because the way the conferences have realigned with a bunch of teams moving to the SEC and the Big Ten, we're getting regular season matchups that we never got before, and it's all coming together. The next one after this is really good too, but this one coming up. So here's the slate that we have. First of all, an early complaint for these TV networks who are running college football now is we didn't spread these games out enough. We got nothing in the noon window and a bunch in the 3:30 and a bunch in the 7 o'clock, which is that's not smart. That's not
stressful.
good. It's not good. And it's like, oh well, some people got kids. A lot of us don't. A lot of us are locked in. A lot of us are locked in for 12 straight hours. All right, I did 14 hours last Saturday because Miami Cal didn't finish till 2 a.m. I was 14 hours. We need a good noon slate. It's bullshit that we're not getting it. Anyway, here's the slate that we got coming up. Penn State, USC. Not as good because USC shit the bed and kind of fallen off in recent weeks, but Penn State's number 4 team in the country. Huge, massive brands. That's going to be a massive game. Oklahoma, Texas. Red River rivalry in the Cotton Bowl. Huge rivalry game. And that's the thing with these games that we're going to list. It's either a great matchup between like high-level teams or just matchups fueled with hatred, which is a uniquely college football thing where we can get a good game purely out of hate. Mm-hmm. Purely just off teams hate each other, the fans hate each other, the coaches hate each other. Hate makes great games. Just a fact. We get one of those in OU, Texas. OU's a 14-point dog. Again, I told you people that they were probably going to lose to Tennessee. They did. OU's in a lot of trouble. I'll still ride for them till the day I die. But that game could get ugly. But here's what I guarantee in that game. I guarantee Oklahoma's going to come out with hate in their hearts. Yeah. I promise you that. I promise you they're going to come out there hating a motherfucker, and that's going to make that game fun. Same with Florida, Tennessee. Florida's an abomination. This could very well be the game that they fire their coach, Billy Donovan. He's been on the chopping block the entire year. They suck. This could be the one because I think Tennessee coming off another upset last week. Tennessee lost to South Carolina, who stinks. So they need to get right. Those two teams hate each other. Those fan bases fucking hate each other. That's going to be electric. Then we go into the night slate. We get Ole Miss, LSU, 13 versus 9. Two of the I would say the two hardest partying, whitest, trashest fan bases in college football. Down south, deep Louisiana, deep Mississippi. These people don't got shit but college football in their lives. Both their teams are good, not great, both pretty flawed, and they really, really both need the win, and they hate each other. That game's going to be electric. Love that game. That game is going to be played at the same time as number 2 versus number 3, Ohio State at Oregon. In Autzen Stadium at Oregon. probably the biggest home game in the history of Oregon's program. Their first year in the Big Ten, so they're used to playing in the Pac-12, playing Stanford and Cal and Colorado. They don't get these big-time matchups. USC's been down the whole time. So they don't get these big-time matchups. This is a national. This could be the national championship game. Very well. It's 2 versus 3. Very well be the national championship game. Mm-hmm. Going to be a fantastic game. Going to be an electric atmosphere. Ohio State looks like the best team in the country so far. They haven't really played anybody yet, but they are a Death Star in terms of the talent that they have on this team. And this actually brings me to my point, another point I want to talk about with college football this year. Have you heard yet about who Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith are?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you are going to know who these guys are. We have, right now in college football, the best freshman class of receivers I've ever seen. So, Jeremiah Smith was the number 1 player in the country last year. He's the first wide receiver ever to be the number 1 player. So, think about all the great wide receivers that there's ever been. Julio Jones, A.J. Green, Larry Fitzgerald, all these guys, whoever you think, they weren't the number 1 player in the country. Jeremiah Smith was. If Jeremiah Smith was not the number 1 player in the country, the number 1 player in the country would have been Ryan Williams at Alabama. This is actually a great clip for you to look up. Look up Ryan Williams touchdown against Georgia. Just YouTube it. Just literally type in. It'll be there. Ryan Williams touchdown Georgia. Easy touchdown probably just pulls it up. Yep, that's the one. Okay, so context before you watch this. So this was 2 weeks ago. Georgia playing Alabama. So how this game goes, this is games in Alabama. Pause it before you go. Alabama comes out, smokes Georgia in the first half. It's 28-3 at one point in this game. Looks like an Georgia absolute blowout. Oh, my God, can't believe it. Is Georgia done? Alabama rolling without Nick Saban. They're not going to miss a beat. They're the best team in the country. Jalen Miller is going to win the Heisman. Second half happens. Georgia comes all the way back. All the way back from down 28-3. They take the lead with about a minute and a half left in the game. Alabama gets the ball back. Now, the guy who we are about to watch here, Ryan Williams, just keep this in mind as you watch this, is currently, right now, to this day, 17 years old.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's a terrible angle. Oh, yeah, that's a terrible angle.
So see, he caught it like
you got to get the broadcast.
Like back shoulder with
you got to get the broadcast angle.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. That's insane. They're not giving a replay on that.
Yeah, here, go back to the videos. I'll show you which one to pick.
This one?
Yeah, just do the short. That'll probably do it.
Good.
Here it is. So watch this.
Oh,
and then the gas.
Really shows how fast.
And then the gas.
Holy fuck!
Currently 17 years old. So suffice to say, Jeremiah Smith is better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Smith, as a freshman, is the best receiver on Ohio State, who's the best team in the country right now. They have 3 or 4 receivers on their team that will be in the NFL next year. Jeremiah Smith is better than them all. He's 18 years old. Ryan Williams is the best receiver at Alabama. He's 17 years old. There's another one. His name is Cam Coleman. He's at Auburn. He would have been the number 1 player if it wasn't for these 2 fucking guys. Now, he's getting fucked because Auburn can't complete a pass right now. They don't have a quarterback. But these guys are going to be NFL stars in 3 years and will be in the league for 15 years. We have generational talent at wide receiver at freshmen right now. Anyway, wrap that all up to say, Ohio State, Oregon is must-watch viewing on Saturday night. If you don't like college football, you need to watch this game. Mm-hmm. This is it, like Alabama, Georgia was. It will be the type of game that the NFL cannot give you. And I understand that neither one of those teams would beat an NFL team. The Panthers would beat the shit out of Ohio State, no question about it. But the atmosphere in that game, what it will mean to the fan bases, what it will mean to the coaches, and the amount of crazy shit that could happen in that game because of the talent gap between the very best players and the average players is much bigger than you'd get in the NFL. So the possibilities of what we could get, again, like this game, 28-3 in the first half, Georgia comes all the way back, and then that happens. So we went both ways and then back in the other direction. You just don't get that anywhere but college football. It's the greatest sport alive. This weekend is a weekend to be appreciated. We're not going to get one like it. Actually, you know what? Honestly, now that we have conference realignment, this might be the new norm. And for people out there who shit on conference alignment, it's like, oh, how is it? It sucks that Cal is in the ACC. Who gives a fuck? We are getting a unbelievable slate of games that we would never get before. If you told me if this was the playoff games, take out USC and Florida, but if you said this was the playoff game slate, you wouldn't blink an eye at that. You would say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. We're getting this on a regular Saturday in October. It's not to be taken for granted. It's going to be electric. So that's what we're excited for this week in college football. We're going to give out the picks. Again, I feel good about the picks. We'll give them out probably on Friday. But it's going to be one of the best slates of games I've seen, I think in my life. That's college. What's going on in the NFL? Well, big news in the NFL right now is the man Bob Salah gets fired. And gets fired, not only does he get fired, he gets fired after having to play the London game, which that's got to suck.
Very much.
That's good, because he got fired in London, right? Like, they say that they told him when at the facility they came to him, the owner came to him and fired him or whatever. There's no chance that flight home that he didn't have any inclination, you know? Like, I guarantee there was a time where it's like all of a sudden, like, his ticket didn't scan properly. And like, what? And they're like, he's like, what's up with that? They're like, I don't know, it was weird. We'll see you tomorrow, Bob. But anyway, so big thing that everybody's trying to figure out right now is, why did Salah get fired? They're only 2-3. They're still alive. He's regarded as a good defensive coach at the very least. His defenses when he was with the Niners were always very good. The Jets played hard on defense and were usually pretty good on defense. A lot of talent there as well. So, was it Bob Salah? Or was it the offense? Maybe Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, should have got fired. Well, he can't get fired. He's Aaron Rodgers' boy. So maybe this is all Aaron Rodgers' fault. Well, actually, maybe it's the owner's fault. It's not. None of that's the answer. The answer is Bob Salah got fired as the coach of the Jets because he was the coach of the Jets. This is very similar to the Bengals situation we talked about a couple weeks ago. The Jets are who they are before they got here. They have been a franchise for 60 years. Outside of 1 year, 1970, they won the Super Bowl when they were like 14-point dogs in that game. They've never been good. Mm-hmm. They've always been bad. They made a few AFC Championship games with Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez and shit like. It didn't work though. Didn't happen for them. Had all the talent in the world, couldn't make it happen because there are some organizations who are just run poorly. The Jets are one of them. It's not going to matter. It never mattered, right? It didn't matter. Hey, listen, Aaron Rodgers looks like a corpse out there right now. He threw terrible in the London game, man. He threw 3 picks in London. Looked like an old man. He's arguing, there was something back. Wow, we got to simplify the cadence. Aaron Rodgers is like, or we could just hold guys accountable. So there's that bickering. It didn't matter. It never mattered. It's the Jets. That's all that mattered, is that they're the Jets. They're always going to be a dysfunctional franchise. Listen, I'm a Titans fan. We've been bad my whole life. We're a dysfunctional franchise. I got a quarterback right now, Will Levis, who I've never had a more heart-wrenching experience watching a guy play, because I truly, every time that ball is snapped, have no idea what the fuck this guy's going to do. Yep. It is not outside the realm possibility that he might turn around and throw it out the back of the fucking end zone. That guy is out of his...
He does do
He's out of his goddamn mind out there. And it's so frustrating to go on a tangent here with Will Levis, because he throws that pick on Monday night against the Dolphins, hits the linebacker in the fucking chest, immediately goes over to the sidelines and the camera's on him. And clear as day, you can read his lips going, I never even saw him. Yeah, no shit, Will. That's kind of the problem, dog.
I was going to say, that's tough at the NFL level,
and it's just,
to not see that.
And just to have it caught on camera like that. Yeah. Of like, just very clear. You can just see him go to his coach and be like, hey, I got no idea, man. And then he hurts his shoulder, and they're like, hey, what's up with his shoulder? And then they put the camera on him, and you can read his lips going, it's my shoulder. This guy can't get out of his own fucking way. I like the guy. As a guy, I like him because he wants to be so good. And he plays hard, and I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he just can't get out of his own way, this guy. So I know something about cheering for a cursed fucking franchise, and there's just some organizations in the NFL that are just always going to fuck it up because it's in their DNA. And a lot of it comes from ownership. Woody Johnson, the guy who owns the Jets, is a fucking moron. He's Johnson & Johnson, that's where he got his money. He inherited all the money. Like, he doesn't know shit about anything. He's just old and rich, and he's connected politically. Like, he's a big Trump guy. He was like ambassador to the... That was one of the takes I saw that was given. It was a truly garbage. And I do almost respect these guys out there, these hot take guys who just really try to come like there was one for Salah that Salah got fired because he wore a Lebanon patch on the sidelines at the UK and the London game. Yeah, he did that all last year.
was gonna say I don't think these guys give a fuck about that shit unless it's going wrong.
Woody Johnson is like a big time like Jew guy, so I'm sure he didn't love that. But that's not why he got fired. But guys just come out here with these takes, and one of the takes that they've come out with for another one they got fired is he was the ambassador to the UK, so he had a lot of friends at that London game, and it was embarrassing to see them play that bad. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The reason he got fired is because Woody Johnson is out of his mind and he needs something to change. And Rodgers coming out and being like, I had nothing to do with it. It's like, shut the fuck up, Aaron. You had nothing to do with it. You think first of all, you definitely got a heads up it was going to happen. It's not like Aaron Rodgers showed up to work one day. It was like, hey, by the way, the coach got fired. He definitely got a heads. I'm not saying it was his idea to fire the coach, but they told him the coach was getting fired. And if he said, no, don't do that, they wouldn't have done that. They're beholden to Rodgers. Rodgers, he's got that organization by the balls right now. And again, it's a similar situation to Burrow where Aaron Rodgers thought, hey, I'm just going to show up and we're just going to do it my way and we're going to stop being the Jets. Nope.
Yep.
Still the Jets. Same with Burrow where he's like, I'll show up. We're not going to be the Bengals anymore. Nope. Still the Bengals. Still can't pay anybody. Still paying for Gatorade at practice. Still paying for parking spots. Like, it's still the Bengals. So these guys are learning hard lessons that if you are a fan of the NFL, you understand. There are certain franchises that are just never going to get it done. And conversely, there are certain franchises where it's always going to work. The Packers are one of those. Yeah. The Packers haven't had a bad quarterback since 1994. Because they went Favre.
Was that before?
That's before Favre came in. That was before Favre. Yeah. So they go Favre, who, by the way, was not like a big-time prospect. They got him off the scrap heap in Atlanta. It just turned out great. They go Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. Yeah. It's all just worked. It's all just worked every single time. And because they are a well-run organization who also doesn't have an owner. I think that's also part of it. Also don't have an owner. You can look at the Cowboys. Since the Cowboys won a bunch of Super Bowls in the late 80s and the early 90s, before Jerry Jones really ran things, he takes over. Haven't won dick since. Haven't won a playoff game in like fucking 15 years. Right? They always have one of the highest payrolls. They always have the most stars. Don't win dick. There's just franchises like that. The Bears are like that. That's why like the Caleb Williams thing, everybody thinks he's going to be great. He probably will be great. It's not going to work. You know why it's not going to work? Bears. They're Bears. Never works for the Bears. Commanders, Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year right now. If we had to hand it out today, would have an argument for MVP if we had to hand it out today. It's not going to work. You know why? Washington. Never works. Not going to work. Now, Washington, I could hear the argument that they've got a new owner in now. It's not Dan Snyder anymore, so maybe it's a new era. I'm going to need to see that. I'm going to need to see that before I believe it. So that's that. That's where we're at with the solid stuff. Again, I didn't think he was going to be the first coach fired. I did think that was going to be my boy Dougie Fresh down in Jacksonville. Yeah. He won a game. They sort of staved it off. He's eventually getting fired. But Salah's the first one to go, man. And listen, somebody's going to take that Jets job. I don't know who's going to take it because I don't think anybody who has options is going to want that job. But somebody's going to take it. They're going to convince themselves they can fix it, and they can't because the Jets are who they are before they got here. Fraud alerts. Getting to that point in the season where we're starting to feel some things about some teams. Teams we thought might be good that maybe aren't good. We already talked about the Niners. The Niners are not. I don't know. I don't want to say the Niners are frauds because they're banged up right now. But if I'm still supposed to be taking them seriously as an NFC contender, then that's fraudulent. The biggest frauds in the league right now are the 5-0 Minnesota Vikings.
This is an interesting one, man. Because I mean, just by history, sure, I believe you, but they look solid.
They look solid. This happens a lot.
There's not a lot I'm missing with these when I watch that.
Correct. Look, they're 5-0, and they finally won a game where Sam Darnold didn't play well. Here's the thing. I've seen a lot of Sam Darnold over the years. I'm very confident he's turning back into a pumpkin at some point in time, which is not his fault. This guy might be put in the worst situation where now the expectations have been driven so far above what he's capable to deliver that now disappointment is the only option. And I feel bad for Sam Darnold because he's sitting there the whole time like, hey, I'm still Sam Darnold. They're like, no, you're good now. He's like, well, no, I'm still Sam Darnold. I'm still going to do some Sam Darnold shit. We've seen this before. We saw it last year at the Eagles. The Eagles were 10-1 at one point last year, collapsed in the second half. There was a Vikings team that was 11 or a Steelers team that was 11-0 at one point. The last Big Ben year, they collapsed. There's always a team that ends up outpacing their expectation early in the season, and everybody gets on the hype train, and it inevitably falls apart. That is going to be the Vikings. We just have to pick the right spot for them to fall apart. Oh, the Cardinals. Remember the Cliff Kingsbury? We talk about frauds. The Cliff Cardinals started out like 8-0 that one year.
Yes, yeah.
And then I think they missed the playoffs. Like
they came close. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Always a team that does something like that. The Vikings are going to be that team this year. Other than that, in terms of frauds in the AFC, the Bills are looking a little fraudulent lately, and I was a big believer in the Bills' offense, but that's back-to-back awful games by Josh Allen. Not seeing I think he completed 9 passes in that game on Monday night, or was that Sunday night? They played Sunday night. Sunday night, I think he completed 9 passes. That's not going to get it done. Their defense does not look for real. And so if their offense is not going to be clicking, I don't see how they win big games at the end of the year. They're probably still going to win that division because that division is garbage. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins, the Patriots are abominations. The Jets, who knows what we're going to get from them now. And then so I think they can still win that division. I don't think they're going to do anything. The Bengals have pretty much, they cannot slip up again or they're going to miss the playoffs. They are now, what are they, 1-4 now? 1-4. They can't slip up again. There can't be like a weird fluky loss. They can't afford any injuries. They're right on the edge of it. And then the Ravens, I think, actually might be the second best team in the AFC right now, as we kind of talked about earlier. They've got the run game established. They at least have an identity of something that, like, they're always going to be able to run the ball. So that's going to last. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily believe in the defense. And we talk about frauds. We talk about guys who don't really have it when you absolutely need it. Lamar Jackson has put himself at the top of that list. He's a 2-time MVP who's never made a Super Bowl and has had some terrible playoff performances. So I don't really trust them either. Again, I wish there was more to say about the NFL other than it's just going to be the Chiefs.
I agree,
but it's just going to be the Chiefs.
Like when you watch it too, like because you watch Ravens, whatever, go back and forth all game like that. That's not a playoff win. You're not going to go out and beat the Chiefs like 38-35.
No, you're not going to get
because you're not getting the ball that much. Chiefs are going to take 6 minutes on their drives and probably cash in too.
It comes down to this. It's the same thing. It's very similar for those of you who lived through the Patriots thing. It's very similar to those teams where it's a top 10 offense. It's a top 10 defense. Neither side of the ball is elite, but they're both really good. And in order for you to beat them, you have to play well, and you need both sides of the ball for them to play poorly. And it's just so unlikely to happen. And even if it does, they still got the trump card because they have Mahomes.
Exactly.
So it's just so different. Like they are not playing well. And again, this is what the Patriots used to do. They would sleepwalk their way through the first half of the season. You look up at the end of October, and they're 8-1. They're 9-0. There's something like that. Like they're gonna wrap that division up so early, it's unbelievable. The Raiders aren't gonna do shit. The Broncos aren't gonna do shit. No. The Chargers I like a lot just as a team, but they don't have the horses. They can't. Harbaugh's gonna fight and scratch and claw, and they're gonna try to muddy it up and drag them into the deep waters to try to. But like they're not gonna win that division. Chargers or the Chiefs might wrap this thing up by American Thanksgiving. So. They're going to coast the rest of the way. Kelsey looks like he's playing himself back in shape. I do like that now we're just accepting, like, hey, he showed up out of shape because he was out there partying all summer, which I'm sure he told the organization was going to happen. I'm sure because he could have retired at the end of last year.
He's old.
But, he said, if I'm coming back for the three-peats, like, listen, first of all, I don't know if you guys watch the news, but, like, I got things going on right now, all right? I'm a little busy out here. I don't know if you understand what my life is like right now. So I'm sure he told them, like, hey, I'm going to be gone all summer. And, like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to use the first, 6-7 weeks of the year to just kind of play myself back into shape, which they've done, and they haven't lost a game. So that's it. That's where the Chiefs are at. And that's pretty much what there is to say about the NFL right now. It's still an intriguing year to figure out, sort of the next tiers of teams, and, we got some good young, the Jaden Daniels thing is very exciting. The C.J. Stroud's continuing to play well, so you can see, they're like the Texans. If you told me next year the Texans are going to compete with the Chiefs, I could see it. Mm-hmm. If the way it projects out. So we're just in this weird spot where the old contenders, the Eagles, the Niners, maybe the Bills, they've kind of fallen off a little bit, and we don't have that new wave of contender yet, which just means the Chiefs are going to win it. So that's where we're at with the NFL. Picks. We're not going to give out picks here on the podcast. We will do the needle thread just because it's Wednesday and it's tomorrow that the needle thread comes out. We've got Niners, Seahawks at home, catching 3.5 against the Niners at home. Coming off 2 straight losses. Niners obviously banged up, getting a little bit healthier. They do not have Christian McCaffrey yet. 49.5 is the total. Look at it from a side perspective right now. I don't think the Niners can be favored against anybody right now. My boy Kyler just went in there and beat their ass. Yep. That was great to see. Kyler Murray, MVP, back alive, plus 8,000. Looked dead there for a second. Back alive. Seahawks coming off 2 straight losses, but there's actually a thing now that was interesting. So that second loss, they just lost to the Giants, had the Giants plus 7. Have you heard of people talking about the Dan Campbell hangover?
No, what do you mean?
So it's a trend now. We're on now, I think, 4 straight weeks of the team that plays the Lions in the previous week gets stomped in their next game. So this happened with the I think it was the Rams. It's happened. You can look it up. It's happened every time. Every team who's played the Lions, the next week they come out and they get stomped because it is so. The idea is that it is so physically taxing to play against the Lions because of just their style of play, their offensive line, their defensive line. That there's like this hangover effect on the team the next week and they get stomped. And that happened to the Seahawks played the Lions and then went out and got their asses beat by the Giants. Mm-hmm. So I think that line is incorrect. I am taking the 3.5 points every day of the week. Total's 49.5. Very high total. Short week. Division opponents. I get the hook. We're going to take under 49.5 there. If the Niners offense kind of snaps into it and or we get defensive touchdowns, that could be in trouble. But I just don't see how this game isn't like a 24-21 type situation at the very worst. The Seahawks have come out. Mike McDonald, their coach, came out and said we need to run the ball more. So I think they're going to try to dominate the clock a little bit. That Niners defense is definitely taking a step back in the front 7 portion of the defense. The secondary is still quite good. So that's it. That's the needle thread. The needle threads are 1 and 4. We don't
be a lot better.
We don't beg for needle threads. We don't go maybes on needle threads because it's so hard to pull those off. But realistically, the needle thread should be 3 and 2 at this point, which would be again a historic pace. I'm dominating the NFL. I feel great about this pick. That's Thursday night needle thread. Seahawks plus 3.5, under 49.5. The rest of the picks, the rest of the slate, you guys are going to get on the social media headed into this weekend. We are now, like I said, in a stretch of, I don't know how many, 48 consecutive days of football left. So that means starting next week, we have Maction. So we're going to start giving out Tuesday nights. King of the Mac is back. Mr. Tuesday Night is back. We've got Wednesday night CUSA action. Can't wait for that to get going. We actually have a little bit of it tonight, but it's not a true CUSA game. So we're going to get going on that. We're going to have picks every single day. You need to tune into the social media. You need to subscribe to the YouTube if you want to catch on all the winners. There's international games coming up. Games are starting at 9 a.m. You need to be locked in on that the night before. You can't wake up Sunday morning and think you're just going to bet the London game. The London game's already started by the time you people get out of bed. I already know it. Mm-hmm. I know it has. All right. And again, the Lunder hit last week, which was nice to see. It's good that the Lunder's back. There's almost no value in the Lunder anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody, like, the totals go so low, and it was 41.5, 40.5, depending on where you got it last week, and that finished at 40. Thank you, Aaron Rodgers, for just deciding to not play football last week. So more London games this week. Great slate on Saturday. The NFL's rocking. We're going to go football every day. So that's it for this episode. That's been the Diceshaker Podcast. We're back. We're rolling every week the rest of the season. Every day. Truly every day. For the foreseeable future, there's going to be picks given out.
Might need emergency episodes.
So we could do emergency episodes.
Might need emergency episodes.
I don't know if we have the technical capabilities.
Some portable units for it. Everything.
Don't know. Certain things happen. You have to react in live moments. So that's it. That's the podcast. Rate, subscribe, YouTube. Give it 4 stars. I think you're a bitch. You got to give it 5 stars. That's the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, that's funny. When you said 4 stars, I was like,
I bet my life I'm a dice shaker. Electric lights on a skyscraper. It's up and down.